Good morning, dear children. Today we're going to be learning history. What is history? History is simply the study of past events. Again, history is the study of past events. In history, we are going to study about people in the past, what they did or what they said. We're also going to be studying important dates in the past, and we're also going to be studying important past events, things that took place in the past that are important. Again, in history, we are going to be studying about people in the past, what they did or what they said. We are also going to be studying about important dates. We're also going to be studying about important events that took place in the past. So history is about the past. One more time. What is history? History is the study of past events. Good. So we're going to write that down now. What is history? That's a question mark. History is the study of past events. What do we say we study in history? In history, we study number one, people in the past. What they did or said. We also said in history we study important dates. Important dates. And we also said we're going to study important past events. So, history is the study of past events. In history, we study people in the past, what they did or said, important dates, and important past events. That is what we're going to be studying in history. History can be divided into three different categories. History can be divided into three different categories. We have oral history, we have written history, and we have archaeological history. Or you can say history is divided into three different types. You have oral history, you have written history, you have archaeological history. Now, we're going to look at them one after the other. Let's start with oral history. What is oral history? Now, we said history is the study of past events. So, what is oral history? In oral history, we learn about the past through stories that were said with the mouth, that are said with the mouth, or that were said with the mouth. Oral means said, not written. Oral means it's being spoken with the mouth. So when we say oral history, we learn about the past through stories that were passed through the mouth, that were spoken through the mouth. For example, when our grandparents tell us stories about their lives when they were much younger, and you get to learn about the past, you get to learn about those days through what? Through the stories they said. They didn't write it down, you've not seen any written, you didn't see any pictures of when our grandparents were growing up. They only told you what happened when they were growing up. I remember a story my dad actually told us, we were gathered as a family, and he told us a story of our village, where the person who discovered our village, he actually said, I think the name of the village is Babun. He said that village, the person who discovered it actually was moving and then found this place, and it was full of a lot of food. It had a lot of, the soil was fertile, and decided to settle there. And actually, he killed a lion. A lion was, the person who discovered that village actually killed a lion in that place. So this was a story that he told us. And I'm sure also my dad did not see the person who discovered the village, but he was also told by his own father, who was also told by his own father. So you see, the story was passed on from one person to another through words, through spoken words. There was no written record to prove that it actually happened. It was just one story. It was just a story told from one person to the other, and now it got to us. So that is oral history. It is spoken through words. Good. So the next type of history, we've seen oral history. In oral history, we learn about the past through spoken words. Again, in oral history, we learn about the past through spoken words. Good. So the other type of history we look at is archaeological history. Archaeological history is history where we get to learn about the past through dug up materials from the ground. Yeah, another name for archaeological history is dug up history, because in this type of history we learn about the past through things that are being dug up from the ground. So we have this group of people, they are called archaeologists. So their job is to go to different places and start digging, and when they dig, they find something and they study that thing, which helps them to relate, to know about the past. Let me give for example. Now we all know the story of David and Goliath, and Goliath was a giant. It is written that Goliath was a giant, but not only is it written, there is also archaeological proofs that Goliath that giants lived on earth, because someone said David and Goliath, and they say Goliath was as tall as a story building. And you're like, I've never seen a giant. Is it true that giants ever lived on earth? How do I know that it is true? How do we get to know that it is true? Archaeologists prove this. So now when they go to a particular place and they want to study about that place, and they are just digging and digging and digging, we know that a normal human bone is supposed, let's just say a normal human bone is supposed to be this size. I'm just saying, for example, a normal human bone is supposed to be like this. And then when the archaeologists, they go and they are digging and they are digging, and then deep under the ground, they discover a bone that is this size. A human bone that is this size. Then they begin to check. A normal human bone is supposed to be like this. But this bone that we have seen of a human being is as big as this. That should tell us that surely there were some very big, tall human beings that live on earth. And that can explain why there were giants on earth. So you actually see that through archaeological history, we learn about the past by things that are being dug up from the ground. That is archaeological history, or dug up history. So we said oral history, we learn about the past through words that are spoken. We learn that archaeological history, we learn about the past through what? Things that are being dug up. It is called archaeological history or dug up history. And then now we go to the third and the best, which is written history. Written history, we learn about the past through what? Books, things that have been written. Not just books, because when we talk about written history, it's not just books. Before the invention of books, people wrote on stones. Yeah. People wrote on stones. People wrote on wood. Anything that people could inscribe, could write on, they used to write. So many a times the earliest form of written history was not in books. The earliest form of written history was on walls, was on stones. So while these historians, people who study about the past, went maybe into Egypt or went into these places, they went into these caves and everywhere was dark, and then they were moving, and as they were digging and moving, they saw writings on the wall. They saw writings like on the wall that people had inscribed on the wall, and then they brought someone who knew how to understand that language, who could read it and interpret what was written on the wall. In ancient Egyptian history, in ancient Egypt, most of the times they wrote on the wall the names of their emperors, the names of their pharaohs. They wrote the names of their pharaohs. They also wrote the names of their gods. So they also wrote in. So they wrote a lot of things on the wall, and you got to learn about those people through the things that they wrote. And then in more recent times, we have written history, which is being passed through books. We get to learn about the past by reading about the past from books. So these are the three types of history. We have oral history, which is we learn about the past through spoken words. Archaeological history, we learn about the past by digging up things from the ground and studying them. We learn about the third, written history, we learn about the past by reading things from books. So let's do a review of what we've studied. So let's write that down first. So the three types of written history, we have oral history, we have archaeological history, we have written history. I said oral history, we learn about the past through spoken words. Written archaeological history, or what? Dug up history. We get to learn about the past through materials that were being dug up from the ground. And written history, we learn about the past from what? Reading books or writings that were made on the wall that tells us about the past. So see you next class.